Guys are ready? You're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Is the student council?
Yes,
This is
yes,
Mr. Now,
yes.
student council. Do you guys want to quickly say your name?
Go ahead, Alex. I'm Alex. Yes, you. He's Omar. Yeah, I'm Omar. I'm Andrew. I'm David. I'm Andrea. I'm Leah. I'm Jace. I'm Jayla. I'm Jesus. I'm Mia.
Does anybody want to say something about their favorite thing about student council?
Probably where we get to stay while no one else is there. We like get to say the announcements.
Thanks for coming in the pledge. You guys want to come in through and I'll shake your hands?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Yep, you can do
Thank you.
Thank you. Buffalo. I know it's.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Side. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Nice job.
Job.
Yeah, there's a buffalo on the flag.
And from my mom. It's awesome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Good job.
You did good. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Additional classified and certified curriculum actions. Item E3, add item 5C, consider approval of partnership agreement between Jobs for America's Graduates and Garden City Unified School District.
Second,
I'll say it.
any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I just see Dana, I just noticed that Dana was on there.
Hi.
I didn't want to leave you out. I didn't realize you were there. Okay, motion passed. Next we have. Dr. Duncan. I'm like, I don't see her.
Got a couple of different recognitions from Garden City High School tonight. Dr. Duncan is stuck traveling back from New York City. So I'm going to pinch hit for her, and it's my pleasure to do so. We're here tonight to do a couple of recognitions. I'm going to do them, I think, slightly out of order of what's in the agenda. But our first one tonight, we're here to recognize our Garden City High School band assistant, Mr. Andrew Thiessen. In January, Andrew was notified that he was one of 32 secondary teachers from across Kansas to be named winners of the Horizon Award. That award recognizes young professionals who have performed in a way that distinguishes themselves above their peers. Andrew was nominated by our school and our district and underwent a rigorous selection process. Last Friday, he accepted his award in Topeka at the Keene Conference. And he is now a member being able to go to that conference, noted for exceptional educators. And he gets to do that each year. And we're thankful that he's a Buffalo and part of our herd and that our kids get to learn from him every day. So Mr. Andrew Thiessen, Horizon Award. Questions or anything for Andrew? No?
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Our second recognition, and they're coming on in now, has to do with our theater program. Our drama program is one of the top in the state of Kansas, nationally known, able to present at international festivals and do wonderful things. Our second recognition here comes in two parts. The first part is to recognize the outstanding efforts of our drama department, especially those participating in our fall musical, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. This production was selected to perform at the Kansas Thespian Festival on the main stage, which is quite an honor. Only a select group is able to do that. And they also walked away with many awards. Miss Alice Hilt will give you a breakdown of the additional accolades earned by our students and staff. Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice Hilt. I'm the theater teacher at Garden City High School. And this is a mix of students who are both technical theater students as well as actors who were a part of our production of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. The cast itself had 13 in the cast, and backstage we had almost twice as many, making all of the magic happen for our production. And so we got to actually kick off the festival. So we performed on Thursday night of the festival to a crowd of over 1,500 students and faculty from across the state of Kansas who are engaged in theater. And so it's like winning state for us because we don't do Keisha, but this is our state competition. And so to take a main stage show is a huge accomplishment for any school. While we were there, we also competed with our one-act play, which got third place, which means that we're second runner-up for the International Thespian Festival, which is held in June in Bloomington, Indiana. And additionally, 13 students, please raise your hand if you are a national qualifier. 13 students qualified to attend the International Thespian Festival in June, and that is a record number for us with something that is called a Thespy. Put your hands down. So Thespies are performance, but they're also technical theater activities. So I have stage managers, I have costumers, I have a set designer, and then I have a bunch of actors who all qualified to go to Bloomington, Indiana, which is a huge accomplishment. And so they get to travel there and compete yet again for the chance to win scholarships. And additionally, anyone who is a junior who qualified also gets to audition for colleges. And so last year I took three juniors, and they all got tons of callbacks. Probably the most is this one right here, who's our costumer. And Esme, how many?
I had 60 callbacks from
colleges. And so I really pushed the juniors to say, I really want to get you there that year so that you can start talking to colleges and find a place that's going to be the right place, right fit for you. So I don't know, did any of my actors want to say something about what it was like to perform on that huge stage? Come up here. I had to have Brian and Rizal talk a little bit maybe about what it was. These two were the main leads of the show.
So for me, it was like a once in a lifetime experience. It was like 1,500 kids, and all of them were my age. So it was really just a surreal experience to do that in front of all of my peers and all of the people who are my age and are doing the same exact thing that I love to do, and they all love it the same as myself. So it really fed me, and it to me it made my performance better because their energy came with being there.
Where was this at? Where did you guys?
Wichita, the Century 2 stage on the big stage. Yeah.
To me, I found it such a rewarding, gratifying, and wonderful experience altogether. I thought the opportunities that I've gotten and the growth, not just through in acting, but in relationships with my peers that I've received through acting and through going to state, through the workshops, through meeting other kids like me that I didn't know existed. For the longest time, I thought that I was one of like the only theater kids in Garden, and we go to Wichita and there's 1,500 of them that we got to perform in front of. And it was a lot of fun. And it really helped not just I feel like my well-being and also the path I see for myself later on in my future, but my mental health as well. It helped a lot getting to see more kids and more people enjoying what I love to do.
And it does, it does help to think about back on. It really, so for me, leading ladies, it really fed leading ladies. I thought about that and I thought about the joy that that brought me. And I wanted to bring that back here and do that on the stage here.
The last acknowledgement I want to give is Phoebe. Pierre Maglabayan, just yesterday, she competed at the English Speaking Union's annual Shakespeare contest in Kansas City at the Kansas City branch, and she won. So that means Pierre gets to go to New York and compete at the national level with kids from all of the other chapters who qualified. So, and that will happen over Shakespeare's birthday. So.
Well, Ms. Hilt kind of undersells a little bit what happened at the Wichita, the competition, the state festival. Those of you who go to our shows at Garden City High School will immediately be struck by the great set design and all the really cool things that they build through one of the most popular classes at Garden City High School, tech theater. And they're always working in there. They had to totally deconstruct this huge set piece, put it in a U-Haul, find someone to drive the U-Haul, take it to Wichita, totally put it back together again. And then
In 4 hours.
in 4 hours, present, and then take it apart again and bring it back home. I mean, it wasn't a small thing. It took a ton of people to do and coordination and doing all that, but that's just a dedication to the program and what's going on. And the success of our program is a reflection of this leadership. We're blessed to have one of the best in Kansas leading our program. Not only is Alice a Crystal Apple Award winner, 2021, and a candidate for this year's Kansas Teacher of the Year. Kansas Teacher of the Year that happens in April, I think. And so
The
she's a
Saturday
candidate.
of my musical.
Yep,
And I'll
she's
be
gonna go and hopefully be Kansas Teacher of the Year and come back and do a musical performance that evening. But we found out at the previously mentioned Kansas Thespian Festival that Ms. Hilt was named Educational Theater Association Region 5 Teacher of the Year for this school year. So we're proud to have her also part of our Buffalo herd and for our students to interact every day with her and her crew. So congratulations. Your other assistants in the program.
Yes, I want
see
to
them hanging in the
acknowledge,
back and we gotta acknowledge them.
yeah, Robin Hilt is my costumer. I couldn't do this without my sister. She's fabulous and wonderful and makes magic happen. 30-second costume changes in this show. And yeah. And then Mark Van Savage, who is one of my other assistants, who drove the truck. He drove the truck. He's a jack of all trades, does all kinds of different things for us. Really loves working with the actors. Not present tonight, I have Wyatt Smith, who is also one of my assistant directors. He assists for the musicals. And then I also work with Abigail Martinez, who is our musical director, who does a phenomenal job teaching the kids all of the music. And Miss Yana Kong, who came with us to state to play all of the tracks for us. And so and Dr. Bud Smithson, who came to just help us put that beast of a set back together. And he built some of the set pieces for us as well. So yeah, we have a phenomenal group of people that help us out. I also have a few alumnus here in the crowd who also came along to state and were dressers and were working backstage on the show as well. So.
Yeah. If you want to come see magic happen, show up for tech theater class, because that is outstanding what they do and building of those things. And then the costuming, go over to costuming class and see them
Gonna have.
put all that together.
We're gonna have a phenomenal musical in March and April. A lot of these kids are in that too. We're doing Jekyll and Hyde, which high schools don't do that show. It's super hard. And it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Again, congratulations. Questions or anything?
Just in awe.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And I know there's a lot of you, but come through.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Right, my hand. I know this guy. They can do this the other day. That was fun. I'm in the process.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
He drove it over.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's right. Building presentation with Victor and Alice. Uh-huh.
You have to follow like award-winning performers.
I'm Tracy Liker. I'm principal of Victor and Alice. Kelly Gerber, assistant principal of Victor and Alice.
Janice Strecker, instructional coach at Victor.
Head instructional coach.
Oh, my-
I am Emma Triplett. I'm assistant to the teacher.
Yeah.
You guys want to introduce yourselves again?
David.
Okay, at Victor and Alice Elementary, our vision is lifelong learning through rigor, relevance, and relationships. Our mission statement is data-driven instruction to embed, engage, establish, which will result in the growth of achievement for all. Okay, we have 407 students currently in grades kindergarten through 4th. We have our RISE program, which stands for Reaching Independence Through Structured Environment. We have 4 kindergarten classes, 4 first, 3 second, 4 third, and 3 fourth grade classrooms. We have about 79% that are free and reduced lunch, and we have a total of 9 different languages spoken at our school. Our student council, who you just met earlier, has 14 fourth graders. They run our school store, assist with school events, and make announcements. We have a robotics team. There are 16 members. They are 3rd and 4th graders. And then Leader in Me, we have started this year. And with our implementation, we have students currently turning in job applications to do jobs like morning greeters, help in the gym, like in the morning. We have a whole bunch of jobs that they've been turning in and have to apply for.
So going off of that, Leader in Me started with Plymouth last year, and now 6 other elementary schools have implemented it, including ours. So we went through 7 habits training in September, which are the 7 habits of good
Happy
living.
kids.
Happy kids, happy life. And then in January, we trained our teachers in Core 1, which is how to teach the 7 habits to students. So teachers have started implementing the lessons that go along with that. And then after our core one training, our staff divided into three groups. So we have leadership committees. We have leadership, culture, and academics. And our culture team is the one that's responsible for looking at the applications for the student jobs and leading in that direction.
All right, our building WIG this year is all students will participate in daily lessons that are authentically engaging in all curriculum through reading, writing, listening, and speaking. The building WIG is one that this leadership supervises and makes sure that we reach that goal by the end of the year. We do that through collaborative walkthroughs, PLC training with our teachers on closed reading. We schedule individual coaching sessions, and we hold ourselves accountable by scheduling weekly WIG meetings to ensure we meet this goal.
Each grade level has specific classroom goals that revolve around students meeting or exceeding growth in the areas of phonics and phonological awareness. Our results are as follows. This graph shows the percentage of students who are performing on track or according to grade level in the areas of phonics and fluency from fall to winter. You'll notice a slight decline at the second grade level. This is not a major concern at this point, and we believe that we'll show growth in the spring. Additionally, at the first grade level, we attribute decline you see here to a test probe change. Moving forward, focus will be on reading fluency. In the fall, it was on early reading skills. This graph shows typical to aggressive growth in our kindergarten and first grade students in the areas of reading and math. Our kindergarten students have shown over 80% typical to aggressive growth in both subjects, whereas our first graders are showing less growth due to that change in their testing probe on fluency. We expect to see growth in this spring from our first grade team. In contrast, however, our first grade students are making great gains in math with 93% typical to aggressive growth. And we attribute this to our Eureka Squared curriculum.
Okay, so now we're going to look at typical and aggressive growth for our second through fourth graders on the RCBM, which is our fluency, reading fluency, where they have 3 passages, they read for a minute, and it averages. So we saw over 70%, I think it was like 70. Second grade, and then close to 80, it was like 78% third, and then about 77 in fourth grade, which is pretty good growth and I think a lot of our teachers tested before winter break too, to really capitalize on that. And then this is math automaticity. So this is fluency in math facts with second grade. We're focused on addition and subtraction. Third and fourth grade would be multiplication and division. Second and fourth both made 77% typical or aggressive growth, and third grade made 74%. And I just want to shout out third grade because from fall to winter, we usually see a huge dip in third grade. Just starting out multiplication in the fall, the cut score is very low, and then it rises pretty heavy in the winter, and we just always see a dip. And the third grade teachers decided they really wanted to focus on math fluency and get rid of that dip, and so we're pretty happy with that number.
About that. Is it just basic math facts, or are there square problems involved?
In the fluency, it's just math facts, but it's a single and double digit. Okay.
All right, now we would like to enjoy a video that our Stuco put together for us that explains why BO is great.
It will.
My favorite thing about, is that the lunch, and my favorite thing about the lunch is the nachos.
What I love about now after so many years, of service, I have to. And I'm happy to see you. And I think that's the most important.
I like to you have three picture wearing so at math, you get to go at first grade with the
The best part of my day is in the morning when I meet the kids, and then in the afternoon when the kids are dismissed. I love how they're so sincere, there's so much fun.
My favorite thing is to go to
Favorite part of my job is available. Jury or illness or maybe be able to help them.
That's why I love you. Any questions? Not many remember, but I did my student teaching at BO, so kind of a special place in my heart. I love to see all the great programs. Hope I can get out there and get into business. Thank you. Good job on the video too. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Good job.
Any correspondence? On to the consent agenda.
President, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Want to get ready to glance at it again? No? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
discussion item is our board goals update.
Hi, my name is Diane Elliott, and I'm the social emotional learning facilitator for the school district. Hello, good evening. I'm Kim Fisher. I'm the mental health liaison for the school district. And we're going to talk about our SEL and mental health intervention team update today. First, covering social emotional learning, I want to tell you a little bit about the SEL Advisory Council. We've been here before about this, but the membership is a community group organizations as well as school district employees. So some of the community groups include Live Well Finney County, Kansas Children's Service League, Garden City Police Department. And then from the school district, we have a variety of levels involved, from early childhood to the high school. We also have different types of involvement, from teachers to administrators, school nurse, parents as teachers, representative. So there's a variety of different types of representation. The purpose of the group is to look at social emotional learning data. So that could include Kansas Communities That Care survey results. It could include district information, such as discipline or My Savers. That's our social emotional screening tool that we have. So there's a variety of different things that we might look at. We also discuss different types of this information in light of social emotional learning goals, substance use, and education and intervention efforts that we might want to undertake, mental health concerns, and just building resiliency for our students and those skills that they need to be successful as they go into career and community and be contributing to society as a whole. So currently, we're talking about Kansas Communities That Care survey results, and some of the things that we're talking about right now from our last round of data, which comes from last spring. It came out in March of last year. Some of the information that we're talking about is student engagement. So some of the survey results discuss that students, different percentages feel connected at certain levels. And I didn't bring that with me tonight. It's another topic, but how can we improve those things? So mental health, we have some depression, suicide report numbers in there. And that was one of the things we talked about last year when I was here talking about the Kansas Communities That Care results. And so we're seeing that some of that, we want to make sure that we're having the resources available that students and families need. And then students' connection to school, community, and home. How can we improve? Are there activities, the individual plan of study that you've heard about before? Some of those things, how can we capitalize on those things to make those connections? So that's the purpose of the advisory council. A couple of other pieces of information. I want to tell you a little bit about the Kansans Can SEL Star, because with the SEL Advisory Council and then some of the other district work around this area, we have been applying for the last few years for the SEL Star, and that is a State Board of Education outcome. And so there's this involved rubric, and we submit proof and different artifacts and things that the state then kind of grades us on. And we're currently at the silver designation, which we're one of 12 districts in the state at that level. There are no gold districts right now. And so our strengths were that we have curriculum in place. We have screeners, the one that I mentioned, Savers and My Saver. We have the Kansas Communities That Care in place, that survey result. And then we also have in K-4, we have grade cards, behavior standards that talk about what the students can do already. They persevere, different things like that. So that was one of our strengths. Another strength was positive school climate and culture. There's been a lot of work that's been done in the district to improve some things. One of the things that's occurred is that discipline policy is being revised. And so that's one thing that impacts school climate and culture. And then there's also been additional counselors that have been approved. Site council has gone through those processes, and that's another reason that we're seeing some of these strengths on this. So areas for improvement, we do collect the data like I discussed, and we're working on seeing some growth in social emotional competencies. And so continuing to see that growth, that's one of the goals. And so that's why we're continually looking at our data and trying to figure out what we can do to move the needle even more. And then the systematic improvement processes for social emotional growth. Those are areas that we are focusing on for improvement. The next application cycle, one challenge for us is the data collection. Because of change in state law, our Kansas Communities That Care survey results will get back here in March for this year. And so we are expecting it to be a lower amount than we've had before due to the fact that we couldn't use the enrollment survey permissions because it had to be collected within 4 months of when the window was. So we had to recollect survey permissions and we didn't get as many. We also had to collect permissions for My Savers. And so we won't have complete data for that as well. Then as far as the systematic improvement processes for social emotional growth, Leader in Me, which you heard about from Leo earlier, and Capturing Kids' Hearts, they both have some processes in place in their programs to allow for that, that will help us on that, showing that improvement. There's surveys that are sent out and action teams that look at those surveys and continually go through improvement processes and feedback loops in order to improve their social emotional growth in those programs. A couple of new things this year around SEL is that we're working on additional vaping education efforts. Some of those include school-based lessons. We've been working at the intermediate centers to get some additional lessons there. And then Garden City Achieve has done some additional lessons. We've been at community and family nights. We're also offering one-on-one tobacco treatment counseling if parents sign up for that. I was able to be trained through a grant as a tobacco treatment specialist. And so also I'm offering some education and intervention classes to try to continue those efforts in an additional way. And that doesn't include what schools are already doing in their counseling lessons and things like that. Another thing that's new this year is that Genesis Family Health applied for and received a grant. And they have been providing counseling services in the schools after receiving families' permission and all of that. They have been at Garden City High School Mondays and Tuesdays, KH Wednesday, Worsted Thursday. March 1st, though, they're changing to open up additional services. They'll be at Garden City High School 3 days, and then the middle school is still 1 day a week. And they'll have 3 therapists serving those schools. So far this year, they've served 48 students with 228 visits. The wait lists are starting to begin for in-school sessions. So that's part of the reason they're having the change. This is grant funded. They're working on renewing the grant, but they're also working on the program being self-sustaining. They do ask for insurance information once they've visited with parents and gotten their approval. They also connect students to psychiatric services if indicated. They have a psychiatrist on staff at Genesis, so through telehealth. Okay. Your turn. Yes, I will.
Hello, so I'm here to tell you a little bit about the mental health intervention team. And in our district here, we've named that the Mindful Student Support Program. You'll probably flip back and forth in my terminology. This school year, we're serving 12 buildings. And USD-457 has participated in the mental health intervention team since 2017. 457 was actually one of the 4 pilot districts in Kansas that started with this program, and it's continued since then. There are 67, I believe, districts this year participating in Kansas in the mental health intervention teams. As you can see up there, it's funded by the Kansas legislature and supported through KSDE. Governor Kelly has asked in her budget for next year to add an additional $3 million in support for this program, which I think would bring the total across the state up to $13 million for this program for next year. This project is jointly supported through Compass Behavioral Health and the school district through an MOU, with the goal of connecting students to behavioral health services if they're needed. Hoping to decrease those barriers for students and families by providing those services for behavioral health in schools. We currently are blessed to have 2 Compass therapists who are in those 12 buildings 1 day a week each. We had a gap of about a year where the full-time Compass therapist took another job with the school district. So that was a win for us, but we did lose her on this project. And so from about November of last school year until right about the same time of this school year, we did not have an in-school therapist for this program. But we currently have 2, Katie Aldrich and Tabitha Cruz from Compass, that serve students on Mondays in those buildings. So students are referred to the Mindful Student Program with a very simple referral form that's available to counselors and administrators in those buildings where we serve. It's just a QR code that they can pull up really quickly while they're visiting with parents. We do ask that they get the parent or guardian's approval before they make that referral to me. So I'm not calling out of the blue saying, hi, would you like to have behavioral health services for your student? We want them to be on board from the beginning with that. Once I get that referral, I then call the parent or guardian, contact them, work with them to kind of explain the services that Compass offers and what they might have available for their student, and then help them schedule that initial intake appointment for their student to see what services they might provide through Compass. And you see up there on the screen, there are several different ways that could go your intake depending on the student's needs and the family's choices. They might be offered just continuing individual therapy. They may be offered individual therapy and community-based services, which would be like a case manager that would work with the child one-on-one as well, or medication evaluation and management. If the child meets medical necessity and qualifies for both ongoing individual therapy and case management or community-based services, then we will offer the parents that in-school therapy side. Of course, again, all those services are based on the student's needs, medical necessity, and parent choice. So at any point, parents can say, nope, we're good, we're not gonna do that. We monitor progress on those students that do participate. And I submit a biannual progress report to the state basically at the end of each semester. And then here is a little data for you from the fall report that went in at the end of last semester. At that point, we were serving 135 students with 11 foster students. That is another primary goal of the mental health intervention teams. Unfortunately, we know that foster students often end up moving placements frequently. And so if they're not getting in through the processes that are set up through the community mental health center, we want to be able to help them access those services if they need that. And so we mainly are looking at 4 data points for students who participate. See improvements on those 4 data points. So those numbers are up there for you. Look at attendance, academics, internalizing and externalizing behavior. So you see percentage improvements there and then actual number of students that showed those improvements. Externalizing behavior, I'm usually looking at Skyward for all of this data. So externalizing behavior, I'm looking at ISS, OSS, looking at referrals and looking at for things like, disruptive behavior, problems with peers, verbal aggression, physical aggression, those kinds of things. Internalizing would be more, if you're seeing suicidal ideation, maybe anxiety issues, some of those kinds of behaviors would be the internalizing behaviors. So we see pretty good improvement, and this is pretty typical. This is just my second year with this program, but those percentages and numbers are pretty typical of what we had last year. Any questions about that?
Very interesting. And I think I've asked this before on this topic, but described it. Sounds like that there is a pretty close working relationship with the school teams regarding services, child and family. And so the services that are provided as data, there's privacy issues, but there's also a need to know, so to speak, in the collaboration, what's best for a child in classroom, in school, etc. So that's working pretty good.
Yes. The other largest part of my job is exactly that communication. Most of the time, parents, when they go in for that intake, will sign a release of information between the district and campus. So then that allows us to communicate freely within the guidelines of what they've said we can communicate. And exactly that is what happens very, very often. I have the blessing of having more time. I'm not in front of a classroom of kids every day teaching. So it's much more effective and easy for me to be able to kind of get those lines of communication going. I might be able to request a treatment plan so the school staff can see this is exactly what Compass is working on. This is the services that child's getting. Often we'll request that if there's an IEP being updated or a new IEP coming on, so we can see how that works. Getting school staff just hooked up with who is serving that child at Compass so they can invite them to different things or communicate concerns back and forth. So all of those things happen very frequently.
That's really great. And so when we have special meetings of groups, and I forget the terminologies, but for a particular child or family that are struggling in some way, are you part of that team?
Not always, it just depends. I will always go to an IEP if I'm invited. If they invite me, I'll show up absolutely and do anything I can to help. It just depends because I get invited in sometimes. I have kind of the added benefit that I came to the school district from working for Compass for quite a few years. So I know their processes pretty well and I know most of their staff still pretty well. So I think that helps that communication as well.
I just think that's fabulous. And I know that it's not always easy to get staff.
Yes.
And you have mentioned about some gearing up additional services there. Do you think the staff's available then?
What Diane spoke of was through Genesis. I work primarily with Compass because that's the MOU for this program. And as I mentioned, we had that gap of therapists there for about a year. The previous therapist, she was full-time in the school. We had that gap, and just now gotten the two ladies 1 day a week. I'd love to have a full-time, we can probably keep them busy. But they don't have that time to give us right now, so staff is always an issue. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it always will be in behavioral health out here.
The risk of going down, so but you give a moose a muffin, you know, he's gonna ask for.
Yeah.
So we're, you know, it's just like, wow, I know that it's fabulous what your little programs are able to offer, and the need is there. And so I think we'd always want to be vigilant on how we can improve it. And I just appreciate the information today.
How do you determine the 12 schools? How is that?
Well, we might have to go back to Mr. Guyman a little bit, but I think I know this answer. So if I'm speaking out of turn, please let me know. Up until last school year, they were adding a couple buildings each year. And I believe that was just through discussions between Compass and the school district on where were they seeing kind of the most need, being able to add schools on. And that stopped last year, not because we wanted to say, no, we don't want any more schools, but because of that staff availability.
Linda would probably have more history because she was there when that started. She kind of started it before I took it over, but we have been in conversation and if we can get the staff there, we will take on more and more schools. And I think Compass is willing to take on all of the schools. We just got to get the therapists in place to make that happen. So they've got a position that they've been trying to fill for the last 2 years. And if we get that, then I think we'll be able to bring on those schools that haven't been able to do that. But I think initially when we started, Glenda, was it 8 schools? We had 8 that originally started, and I think it was really based on what we felt like the need was for those buildings. A lot of those buildings had more foster care students, and just the needs of the families in those different buildings based on the data. I mean, do you agree? Thank you.
Curriculum supports safety work. Well, you can take the girl out of 4-H, but you can't take the 4-H'er out of the girl, I guess. A few weeks ago, Heather and Jason asked us to speak about what's happening with our WIG goal at A. Hubert Elementary. And I said, well, Jenny, we need frogs. She looked at me like, what do we need frogs for? And I think that what we're going to share with you is, this word came to mind, LEAP. This group, this is their work, the Longhorn staff and students. They really have just taken to leaping into this new way of, and I say new way, but just tweaking what we're doing to focus on getting a better result and getting the Longhorns ready for the next step. So we hope you enjoy our little presentation on leaping into new learning.
So I guess to start, our building WIGs are getting by the end of the school year. Our K2 goal is 85% of our students to score at least a 30 on phonemic awareness measure on FastBridge, or 100 words read correct per minute on the FastBridge CBM benchmark assessment. And then grades 3 through 6, by the end of the year, all students will engage in close reading lessons at least 3 times a week. We took those goals from the work that we did with our instructional coaches and administrators and worked on it with the staff when they came back, and the staff really leapt in September, working on our phonemic awareness program, K2, K3. with Haggerty and the close reading strategies. They kind of worked in PLCs together with multiple grades or in their individual grade to implement those strategies. Also with phonemic awareness or the phonics program practice, because there's a lot of hand signals and things that go with that. So they've kind of worked really closely within themselves as teachers and with Jenny to really improve their teaching strategies and abilities to implement those two programs.
And to that end, we're a little bit of a different beast, so to speak, because we are a K-6 building. We're one of only 3 in USD-457. And we're located right in the middle of town. So we wanted to set a WIG goal that would meet something that everybody would be working for. I'm Karen Rowe, by the way. I'm the principal. Probably most of you know me, but so don't forget to introduce yourselves when it's your turn.
I'm Brian Cott, I'm the assistant principal.
Jenny Bergstrom, I'm the instructional coach at AP Hubert. And like Karen said, we have a big building and a lot of variety. So we have K through 6, and because they have different needs, we have to differentiate our goals for all those students. So kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade all showed a high need in the area of phonemic awareness when we did our fast bridge screening in the fall. So we began using Haggerty as a tier 1 intervention for all of our students in kindergarten, 1st grade, and in our newcomers classroom. 2nd grade also began implementing close reading with their students because they could see the value in that, and starting at a younger age, they're able to help the kids be ready when they're more independent in 3rd grade. Then 3rd through 6th grade started focusing on first reads in October. We hit that really hard. And when we were seeing a lot of success with first reads, we moved to final reads, which seems a little counterintuitive, but and if you're beginning with the end in mind, you need to know where you're going to end up. So we're working right now on our final reads at 3rd through 6th grade level, and 2nd grade is also addressing it. And we've seen a lot of growth just in the past 2 months with that. We departmentalize in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So we also have 3 teachers who teach only math. They don't teach ELA. So we chose a close reading strategy for math called 3 reads. And that's something that a lot of us were trained on with TNTP last year. And so my 4th through 6th grade math teachers are implementing 3 reads as a math strategy to help their students use close reading in both subject areas. And our specials teachers are also trying to support the classroom teachers by implementing phonemic awareness with the younger students and doing close reading strategies with the older students, even in music and PE.
My name is Vanessa Vital. I am the kindergarten teacher. So kindergarten is using Haggerty for phonemic awareness. So it is a quick 15 to 20 minute lesson. And it has various phonemic awareness skills that the students work on, such as rhyming, blending, onset rhyme, phoneme substitution and deletion. So they participate by using actions or sounds and words. So we practice each skill daily, and it increases in difficulty as they progress. So we've seen great growth in kindergarten. So in the fall, only 44% of our students met the target in phonemic awareness. In the winter, 60% of our students did. They met target. And currently 70% of our students are above benchmark or showed adequate or aggressive growth.
At the beginning of the year, I'm Madison Ayala, I'm a 2nd grade teacher. We had a high need in the area of phonemic awareness. Only 30% of our students were on track in ELA. We saw an increase of 16% in phonemic awareness after implementing Haggerty as a whole class instruction during the 1st semester. We also began focusing on close reading during whole group to increase comprehension, and our A reading scores increased 12%. We are still low in the area of phonics and fluency, so we are now implementing Read Naturally Live as an intervention for the kids who are still below target in fluency. Overall, we had 89% of good growth or aggressive growth and students who are on target.
They have actually, in 2nd grade, this is a celebration. We are no longer implementing or giving students phonemic awareness intervention tier 1. they have graduated from that, enough of those kids, we can reach those kids that need it during tier 2 and tier 3 time. So that's huge.
I'm Kylie Hip. I am the 5th grade ELA teacher. So in the older grades, we jumped in September to our close reading. Starting off with our first reads, like Jenny mentioned. And in those first reads, our students are just introducing themselves to the text. It's a cold read. They have no background information or very limited background information. And they work on annotating the text, looking for main ideas, key details, I call them sticky words in my classroom, any words that they aren't sure of, need to clear up. And then writing a gist, which is a one sentence, basically who, what, when, where, why. Nothing too detailed. I tell them it's enough to give somebody a taste to decide if they want to read it or not. This also gave teachers, when they went through and looked at the gist, kind of what students were getting from that first read before we moved on into, our middle reads, which we aren't focused on yet, but so that way we could get them to the end of what we want that question to be answered in their final read. So after we did that for a couple of months, got them used to it, they were very independent. We introduced the final read, where they reread, go back into the text and answer a very specific question using various details from the text, citing it and using evidence to support their ideas and answers to those questions. And then they write a constructed response, which includes a topic sentence, the evidence, explanations for the evidence, and then a conclusion sentence. And in just the few months that we have been doing this, they have shown a great deal of growth in those parts that we have practiced.
You can see the percentages there, but the percentage of our students who are showing good growth or above are high. Our hope someday is that all of our kit benchmark, those would be our benchmark scores, but we're pretty happy that we have kids that are growing or at grade level.
4th grade is one area where we have seen a little bit of extra growth. The 4th grade students have really taken off with the close reading strategy. They've, from the beginning, when she started having them write their gists, were really engaged and on task. They were reading and they were trying to write their gist. And if they didn't understand it, the teacher was able to help them get back on track. And so they've just taken off with that, and they all want to share. They're really excited about what they wrote and they want to share, which is almost a problem because it takes so much time for everyone to share. So she's figuring out ways for everybody to get an opportunity to share, and they're learning from each other and working really well to be able to get the gist of whatever it is they're reading, and then to dig deeper as they go through the text. So some of our data, the number of students who actually met target increased 7% from fall to winter, and 5% from fall to winter would be what you would expect to have good growth. And this year's winter scores in A reading are actually 11% higher than where the 4th graders were last year at this point in time.
This may be a little bit of my shameless plug for more Kristen and Alex, because I love when they come to my building. Those are the TNTP people that come in, and in all honesty, they don't, I wouldn't say challenge isn't the right word, but they really just stretch our thinking in what we should be doing to be instructional leaders in our building. And Alex came through our building with another building. We were all learning. It was a great day, but he walked out of there, and the first thing he said is, can I just take a moment to point out that we just saw 30 solid minutes of students authentically engaged with text. And that is just such a shift from where they would have been 12 months ago. A grade level text in front of them, and they were able to engage, pick it apart, dissect what they wanted to take out of it, and write about it.
Okay, so our kids really love Haggerty. It has, we address different learning styles, so auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learning. Here we can see some of the students doing those actions in my classroom. The top left. I have students come up and they get to lead the classroom in Haggerty. And they really like that. It gets them really.
So also through the TNTP program, a phrase that I've heard a lot is to stop going an inch deep and a mile wide and start focusing on going an inch wide and a mile deep. And really making sure our kids are engaged with the text, getting what they need out of it. And in comparison with the same curriculum that we've used last year and this year, seeing my kids really engage with the text, answer questions that I would have had to sit there and answer on their own. I mean, there's some lessons where I sit there and in comparison to last year, I'm like, wow, am I really needed here? Because they're able to just take charge of their learning and just really engage with it, get that deeper understanding, things that last year I would have had to maybe structure a little bit more. I'm able to just say, okay, here is this. Let's see what you can do. And odds are that they impress me every time.
These quotes are some of the things that some of Kylie's students are saying. It's helped me understand the author and character point of view. And it helped me understand that reading it more will help you find a better answer. It also helped me realize that the main idea of the story I'm reading or finding evidence. And I don't know how many times as teachers we've said, go back to the text, it's in the text. So this is actually teaching them to do that. Because in reading time, oftentimes the answer is in the text.
So as we mentioned before, in second grade, most of our kids are no longer needing that phonemic awareness kind of intervention. So we've moved on and we started close reading with them, and it's been really wonderful. So we started doing final reads and reading the questions to piggyback off what Kylie said with those final questions. So we do need more scaffolding because they are little kids. So we mainly just focus on the who, what, when, where. Yeah, the who, what, and when, where. We don't really focus on the why or how yet. And I honestly say my kids are knocking that out of the park real fast. So they're answering questions beyond what I could even think a 8 or 7-year-old could do. It's been truly wonderful.
So this is just another example of a collection of things that get the gist is where we started out. And kind of a note, my own child was up playing basketball in our gym. And I have one of those get the gist posters hanging in my office. And he said, Mom, what is this? And I think he said, gist. What is all of this about? It's everywhere in this building. So I knew then that him just visiting my building at the basketball court, he got the picture that our focus was to get the gist. And that is, those are created with the students and just to help them remember what they need to do to read and get what they need to out of the text. Like I said, this is their work. They really didn't look at me and say, oh, you're a crazy principal and you should not be doing this. They left with me when we were advised by TNTP and the Office of Instruction to do better. And I'm really proud of them. Really, really proud of them. It's been a big shift. It's been a hard shift. I'm not going to say that it's been easy work always, but it has been, it's really fun to watch. So, do you have any questions for us? Oh, this is easy.
Well, the data looks amazing. What social emotional piece are y'all using?
We're doing Leader in Me. And this is total anecdotal. I need to get in and look at my referrals, but I feel like with the older kids, I am seeing less of them, and I want to attribute, I mean, it could be Leader in Me, but I also think they're more engaged. They're more engaged in their text and their work, so they're not able to misbehave. I'm not gonna say they don't misbehave, but I'm just saying it does seem less frequent that I see kids in the office for things that I normally would see them in there.
And I'll piggyback, most of them actually are not coming during core instruction. So they are more engaged. It's more the elective type classes or some of the less structured pieces. So, I mean, at the beginning of the year, there was quite a few, but as things gone down, there's hardly any when it comes to ELA or math through the instructions. So.
You feel like a lot of times here we're adding programs, teachers are getting more on their plate. Do you feel like this is working for you, that it's alleviating some of that?
So this is my second year teaching. And last year I thought the benchmark curriculum was just it was a lot. It was a lot thrown at you right off the bat, and it was just a lot to learn. And if you didn't spend 30 minutes prepping each day, you were lost by 5 minutes in. Here, I can go in, I'm ready with 5 minutes. It takes me 5 minutes in the morning to just breeze through it, make sure I'm good to go. And I truly feel like the kids are more, like truly more engaged. Like last time like Kylie said, I'd ask a question, I'd just sit there going, come on guys, let's go. What's the answer? And then nothing would happen. And here I can ask the question and I have 15 hands fly up. Yes, thank goodness. I have to answer my own questions.
It also works really well with the benchmark curriculum. I mean, at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, what the heck? But once we got into it, like our first reads and then the first time we read our text, they work well together. And then once you get in, so our reading selections change each week as we advance through each unit. And so throughout the week, there's, without even, I don't think it's purposefully, we have our first read scheduled into our lessons throughout the program, our final reads. And so once I got into it, I was like, okay, this actually isn't as intimidating. It takes off a lot because the kids are showing me, I'm not trying to dig and probe the kids to show me what they're learning. They're just showing me through what we are already doing.
And we got some of that pushback, I'm not gonna lie. There are two things that I think happened. One, the Office of Instruction said wildly important goal. That's what your focus is. And so that's truly what we've been focusing on, is how we can set up our classrooms to make sure that we're successful in this regard. The other thing is I tried to take some things off of teachers' plates that I could find. And it is hard to take things off of their plates because there is so much. But I did try to find some things that I could take off so that we could work on this wildly important.
I really like phonemic awareness. I like the Haggerty program because it is a really easy way to assess kids in those different skills in a really quick and easy way. We're still doing the benchmark, but adding on the Haggerty to it has been really helpful because it just really, you can see where they are struggling and then pull those kids aside and help them on those particular skills.
And I think another freeing thing was Kristen point blank looked at me and said, Karen, why do you have to be right? Why are you so afraid to fail? It's okay to try something and fail. We'll just have to go back and reevaluate. And I think that that's something that has kind of become the process. We talk a lot, and I am learning. I feel like this last go round, the instructional team, we were in the right direction without so much help from Kristen and the TNTP people. So I think that that's growth too for us. But I also really like being shown, okay, you need to take a smaller step, because I'm not a very patient person by nature. Not that it's just really hard I want good things to come really fast, and they don't always happen that way. So it's been good for her to say, okay, whoa. You're like 5 steps ahead. We need to take one tiny step. So. And I think that's made them feel better.
And the teachers have worked super hard to get really good at what they're doing. We spend a lot of time in PLCs focused specifically on our WIGs and in planning how exactly are we going to teach this, how are we going to assess it. we look at student work and see what are the needs for each individual and try to then adjust instruction moving forward. And then teachers are working really hard to make that work.
This is their moment. And I will say it again, I just want to give them a big pat on the back for what they've done, because I know it's not easy, but I'm asking them to do sometimes.
This is sort of off topic and maybe for the next time we talk about this with you, but always been kind of intrigued on the K through 6 schools. And so you guys are able and doing a fabulous job, the numbers and your explanation on this. Do you think there's I think it's easier working with 5th and 6th graders in your environment as opposed to
You know, it's what I will say,
is there a leadership element?
there's a
there?
leadership element there, and I also hear from my families a lot that they really like that their 5th and 6th grade students get to stay with their younger siblings. So I can speak to. You know, every building that you go in has their own culture and vibe, I guess. And so yes, the K-6, the leadership is nice. I mean, there's pros and cons either way, but I think the thing that I hear is just the families have one-stop shopping from kindergarten through 6th grade.
Well, as you're implementing a new program, a new curriculum, new approach, it just seems like it might be a little easier to continue them on up in one job. So thank you.
How do you feel about this new reading curriculum in regard to students with dyslexia?
We just finished our dyslexic training as a staff on Friday. That is the other thing that we haven't talked about a ton is this approach gave us not some new freedoms, but it did give us some freedom, some how-tos on how to address certain needs that we know about. For example, if we see that in our 5th grade reading, the text is written at a lexile level that is more like 6th grade, we come up with different ways that they can get the text. So I've been in Kylie's room a lot. She might have the tape read it, or she might read it. Or another thing I've seen other classroom teachers is they buddied up kids who may be more fluent readers versus not. We also have had students who are new to the country. We also house the newcomer program. And so we have lots of students who graduate from the newcomer program, but are in our classrooms. And so we even have teachers who are having it read to them in Spanish, but then they reply in English. So it really, again, I think that's something that's a learning in progress. We might find new ways, but the other thing is it's 3 reads. You have a first read, a middle read, and a final read. We weren't doing that last year. One time and done. But kids are getting it at least 3 times, but it may be more like 5 or 6. So there's some comfort and ability to reach kids who maybe didn't get it the first time, those types of things. Does that answer your question? Anything else? Thank you. Thank you. Good information. We have safety and security updates.
Hopefully, probably missed it. There she is. Okay.
She ran away because she was up next.
Yeah, I thought she bailed on us pretty
Yeah.
quickly. She's getting herself, just real quick on the word, when they're saying writing the gist or getting the gist is another acronym. So it's general inferencing and summarizing text is what it means. So it's getting the gist. It's general inferences about the story or summarizing the text in a short little way. So tonight, we just want to kind of come back and visit with you guys about maybe helping provide a direction. Last time we met, we presented kind of all the different plans. Hopefully within the board packet, you'll see kind of the presentation again. And then also we provided some different answers to you in the minute with Mike on some of the questions you had last week, but we'll be able to review any of those questions you may have. And then ultimately, we would just love to hear a direction of how you guys would like for us to potentially proceed. Again, we've got that about 256,000. That's 126 of grant, 130 of matching that we need to look at encumbering by June 30 for this year. And so we'll just kind of stand for questions and or issues that you want to talk about. And Shane is here tonight too to talk about if there's any construction questions around timelines or things like that that you may have as well. On your construction related expenses for VM, are these expenses related to phase one?
They're related to the implementation of visitor management on the previous. So any of those options, either Raptor, non-Raptor, or the non-kiosk or Navigate 360, they'd be construction expenses related to that. So running electrical, electrical strikes, panic bars, and mullions.
That's specifically from the check-in.
Visitor management.
And I apologize, I wasn't at the last meeting. So I feel like I should let other people ask questions. Maybe asked and answered already, so go ahead.
After I've reviewed everything and that, my direction, I think, would be, it's obviously up to the board, but I would focus on the hardening the targets before, really focusing on visitor identification and that. I mean, if we did try to recommend, maybe we just try to do like a pilot school to do the visitor identification or the kiosks. But I think the focus needs to be on the actual buildings, the facilities first. I think that's a direction I think should go first.
And when you're saying, I just want clarification, when you're saying the hardening, you're talking about the controls, like the 1601 controls,
Yes.
the door controls is what
Right.
you're.
And the schools that we had for, I don't remember some of the modifications that Jane was gonna do on some of them and those, yes.
Like added doors.
There was a
Things
few,
like that.
yeah, there.
Right, relocating an office, one or two schools, to get it up closer. I would agree, interesting term, hardening targets, but that, I think that, I personally would love to find the funding as quick as possible for most of it. I still have some questions about the visitor management system. The rest of it, I think, pay dividends upfront of investigations.
I know, one question that Andy had last time when we got a quote, I don't think I got it in last week's information because I was gone at the end of the week. But if you wanted to go in and do all doors within a building with the 1601, it comes out to about $1,000. It's $1,032 per door. So any interior door that you wanted to have that would have a card access, it comes out to about $1,000 per door. That's all costs associated with it, running wires, the controls, the card readers, and the labor cost to it.
I guess my question is, because we have a certain amount we need to spend. So that's where I would be wanting is to do the things with the budget we have versus overreaching. I mean, I want to do it much as soon as we can, but doing what we can with the money that's there.
And I think with this project, kind of knowing, okay, do you want us to do phase one, move on to 2, then 3? And not carve out, the phase 1.5, which takes out the 1601s, knowing those items in that priority, as we are able to get additional grant funds or free up capital outlay monies, it would be nice to have that whole picture of where you guys want us to go next. with those approvals so that as we free up those dollars, we can get it back through the board. Hopefully on consent agenda. I'm kind of hoping that we'll do state contracts so that you guys can then approve them and we can continue hitting the ground running with that plan.
What I appreciate about your approach is that you've given us a sense of what you're thinking and options, sort of packages, phases. But I also appreciate being able to say some comments, give you a sense, and then send it back to you. And let facilities figure it out. It's between budget and facilities and the grant right now. In the short, but unless you're thinking there are other monies that might free up. Short term.
How much money did we have?
So we have 250, 256. It's on one of the last pages. There's a summary of available funds. So the safety and security grant is 126,281, and then our district match is 130,000 for 256,281 total. There are talks of, so Governor Kelly has requested additional funds for next year. If that's the case, then we'll go after that grant as well and request additional funds. And then there's a couple other federal ones that are also available that we're looking at.
So the phases do not include the visitor management.
So this, what's on the screen right now does not. This is just hardening the targets and cameras. So that's what's on the screens right now is the slide and the breakdown of the cost. And then down there at the bottom is where Colleen put together, if you combine different phases, what the costs may be in doing that. But that, especially the ones there at the bottom, that is also replacing all of the cameras at Garden City High School right now because of the
Aging out of the
age.
system.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Someone asked me to welcome.
Well, I tried to, reach out and talk to various people over the last couple of weeks and get some opinions from folks. I think a lot of the sentiment I didn't get a ton of feedback from folks, but what I did hear is, the visitor management system probably isn't our highest priority. It's things like cameras on the exterior and interior. Those are kind of the things that I heard. Folks thought was most important at the buildings. So the camera and so the slides on the screen now, what is the difference between phase 1 and 1.5?
So 1.5 carves out all of those doors, 1601s. So there was the larger spreadsheet, the full one. It carves out the 85,000 for the 1601 doors.
But that,
That includes like
That's your
turtle
card
doors?
access on your exterior doors? Is that what 1601 stands for?
It was the exterior on that plan, right?
correct.
Is that the upgrading of the software so that they can go into staged?
So we already have the software for it.
Okay.
We just don't have the controls that we can send the information to. So we have access on the computer to do the control system of the 3 different levels. We just don't have the hardware in the buildings to send that information to it yet. So actually, I take that back. 2 buildings do have 1601 controls on them currently at this time. And so those 2 buildings have that 3-level access at this time. So it'd just be installing those controls. And of course, that cost also that when you're looking at phase 1 and phase 1.5 is also including the construction cost.
Yep.
For the electronic strikes and those pieces. Yeah. That's included in that 213,170 and the 128,170.
Phase 2 was the cameras at the high school,
Phase 2 is the exterior doors cameras,
just at the high school.
all buildings.
What's phase 3?
The Garden City,
Phase 3 is interior cameras, either 2-way or 4-way dome interior cameras based on the home. Phase 1 is front door cameras, similar to what we currently have at transportation that has the, would be replacing the buzz-in camera systems that we currently have. Again, just real quick review, phase one is just the buzz-in door cameras, changing all the door controls from the 400 to the 1601, hardening all of the doors to have double door sets with that construction cost. Phase two is exterior cameras, and then phase three is interior.
Phase one also includes all the construction expenses. We front loaded it into phase one so that then you can go through the rest of the plan with those construction expenses being ready for the other phases.
And the tech people would be running wires if they were running for the 1601 door controls and the front door cameras, they would run wiring for where phase two and phase three cameras would be. So as you guys are ready for that, the installation process of those are quicker because the wiring is there. It doesn't have to be pulled.
What's your timeline for all phases?
A lot of it is going to depend on
It's a little bit of a guess or
getting the
swag, but-
materials in.
So
6 months.
to do the 1601s is about 1 day per.
6 to 9
building.
months.
I know, because that's what it's taken is so to change out the front door cameras and add a 1601 took about, well, it's about 6 hours, I think is what it took the tech guys to do per building. So, I mean,
It really depends on when we can acquire the equipment. There's some major delays that we've been seeing, so.
once it's here, your ability to spend the grant,
We could commit the funds ahead of time.
just encumbered by June 30, right?
Yep.
So our budget's roughly 256. If you did stage one, which would include the construction plus phase two, you'd be like 272. Is that what you guys are shooting?
Yeah, so it'd be about 17,000 above what was pledged by the grant if you wanted to do that.
That's where I was going. That's kind of where I was going. I think that's a good direction, is do phase one and phase two. We have to come up with that additional funds somewhere, but it's not a ton of money to come up with to complete both of those, but
So explain to me again, so all the buildings current. So the difference between phase one and phase 1.5 is to upgrade to 1601. So we have access control systems on the exterior doors. They're just basically anybody whose key card operates it.
It's either an all or nothing.
It's an all or nothing, where you can, if you have the 1601 function, you can stage different levels of access.
3 levels.
3 levels of access. Okay.
Yeah, I hate saying that the current system has 2 levels. It's either all or nothing.
And to do the 1601, is there any additional wiring needed, or is that just controls?
Yes, there'll be some more wires pulled. So currently there's a head unit that would be in a building that's about yay big, like a shoebox size, or maybe a little bit smaller. And there's each card reader has to have its own head unit. And in the 1601, it just takes one head unit that's about the size of a Big Mac box that just sits on the wall, and it controls all doors then. So it's smaller and more functional because it can control all doors from one head unit versus needing multiple head units in a building. So what would be ordered is that the 1601 unit, and then that's installed in the building, and then that's wired to all of the doors.
It replaces the control wiring you already have. You switch over. Okay.
And then as the card readers start to malfunction, then you just replace them. They're the same. The little black box where the ID goes is just a general access point, but it goes to a head unit that has different software opportunities for it.
And I think also one thing that we need to note that needs to be pushed out is no matter what we do here, our system is only as good as the staff that makes sure they follows the guidelines and the procedures in place and things like that. I think that needs to make sure that's a point of topic when we talk about this with staff and everybody.
I don't want to overspeak, but one of the questions was communicating with local PD, and the feedback was this is a step in the right direction. Outside of fully fortifying the door, you're not going to fully create an impenetrable force, but this puts time and distance and does give us a step in the right direction.
The interior doors, you said is a little over $1,000 per door. Is that a hardwired system or is that for those interior, so it's electric strikes?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you looked in any wireless systems?
I think it was just using the current system that we have, because then that same head unit would then run every door in the building in the district. So I don't know if we looked at any different applications, like software applications.
I know there's systems out there they're more electronic lock sets instead of strikes, and then they're all, they're battery operated, but they all work off wirelessly. I would be interested to see what kind of systems, and those could be used for exterior door and interior door applications, what kind of systems those costs would be, because it could be a system where you could potentially start with that sort of system on the exterior doors and then add interior lock sets at a later date. So whereas I don't know, maybe the 1601 system, you could integrate that too, but I think there's multiple systems that could be used for this. But I mean, in general, I think focusing on door hardware and cameras is definitely the right direction in my opinion.
The only thing I know in talking with Dale before, and I don't want to speak for him, so I would get an accurate answer for you, is those wireless systems pull from the Wi-Fi access points and would strain our wireless internet systems, where the hardwired is just pulling from a straight server. And so they have more bandwidth to use that's not interfering with student use at that time. I know that was a discussion we had about the intercom systems at the high school, that the new intercom systems are wireless, and we would not have enough Wi-Fi at that time to support a Wi-Fi intercom, but I would find that answer for you for sure.
I know the specific school district has the system I'm thinking of in it, so I'd like to see you look into that.
Reach out to.
Yeah, see what their system is and how all those components work before we make a commitment to any specific system here.
We like moving forward with some system.
Yes.
So I guess is there a motion or something to give us what direction do you want us to head in? Because I've heard a couple different things. I've heard the phase 1 and phase 2. But then, Andy brings up some good points about if we're wanting to look at interior doors, do we need to change exteriors? Well, that's different than phase 1 and putting some of the construction costs in. I don't know, with the current security software that we use already with our cameras and our door locking system, it's all integrated into one. If it doesn't integrate, that could having to reset software for cameras and for doors, and then redoing all of our camera systems that are already. Those are questions I'd have to ask. So I guess I'm asking for priority or direction.
How much of the phase 1 or phase 1.1 cost did you say were associated with the security vestibule itself?
81, the construction cost?
Yeah.
81.8, it looks like.
Well, my recommendations would be to move forward with phase 1 and 2, as that's a goal, that's a direction. We're not, I don't think we're ready to write checks just yet, but do you think we are?
I guess not necessarily asking for a specific motion, but a kind of a unanimous consent from the board of where do you want us to start going in terms of looking at contracts and or state bids and or quotes, what to quote out and bring back for potential action in the next month.
Yeah, I would say phase 1 and 2, and then get the answers to the questions that Andy has, and maybe that changes the direction, but at least for now, you have a direction.
I agree.
Okay, so phase 1 and phase 2, And looking at if we can do that on a contract bid, also looking at what potential wireless door control systems may be available that are already potentially integrated with our software. And then what does that cost look like compared to the current cost? Okay. That help? Yep. Okay. Thank you. I'm just gonna pull up the PDF of the calendar. I think this is just something that's last month or not last month, 2 weeks ago, earlier this month, we just looked at the calendar, kind of went through the process. Amber Vigil was here to present on behalf of the calendar committee. I think she did an amazing job in presenting and sharing that data. So I think now is just answer any more questions you may have. And then hopefully we can approve this option for the calendar for the 23-24 school year. And then we can start working on our plans for next year.
I think Dana's back on too, so he has anything to jump on.
I just kind of like to hear from, I guess, Mark, or who was on the calendar.
John and Andy.
Yeah, I think the calendar committee did a lot of really good work. It was very well, those meetings were very well attended. There was a lot of input given. They vetted a lot of things and a lot of really good discussion about how this calendar affects the elementary schools compared to the high school and how there's just a lot to weigh in and factor into all of those and taking those top 4 priorities and trying to integrate them into a calendar and yet maintain somewhat balanced semesters and all the other things that go along with it. You know, I've gotten a little bit of feedback here since the last board meeting about the Monday, Tuesday parent teacher conferences in fall. You know, but I remember from those meetings, there was a lot of good discussion about the pluses and minuses of that. And I really like that this next year is kind of gives both a try. That way we kind of really get a better assessment out just after doing it to see how that's really going to fit for staff and parents. So I think the committee really arrived at a good calendar for next year.
I would just say some of the things that in the meetings that we sat through was, you know, start of the school year. People wanted to start kind of, for better lack of terms, maybe the 3rd week in August opposed to the 2nd, even though first week in August doesn't start on a Sunday, but kind of in the teens instead of in the single digits. The staff showed I think when we looked at everything that they would like to have the full week of Thanksgiving off. There was a lot of folks that voted for that. And then it was important to everyone to be out of school prior to Memorial Day. But outside of that, I would echo Andrew's comments. You know, there was a lot of great people that were involved in that process and I observed a lot, learned a lot, but I think it was a great process to sit through and I think it's a good calendar to start with and move forward.
Motion? Entertain a motion. We're ready to approve this.
I will move to accept the calendar as presented.
Okay.
A second.
Any questions? Dana, do you have anything?
I don't, thanks.
Been moved and seconded to accept the calendar as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passed.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
The one that's lit up.
Can I ask a question that's sort of off topic?
Yes.
Oh,
There you go.
God. Thank you.
Just,
We're like bully
during the day for grade school. We had last year, you know, we had quite the transition and a lot of thinking, a lot of last minute things happened. And transportation, then also very nimble. This calendar, is a great calendar. We still have out there discussions, I think, about starting time, ending time. And it's communication and collaboration is my point with our staff members that are also parents of children. You know, and how to work through some of that. And then on top of that, we have grade school kids that come and sit wherever, depending on the school, awaiting the time to start their classrooms. And so there are in some schools times when kids can get into mischief, or maybe it's time to read, or however the school is handling that. There's still some, what I want to say, extra time that brings in that question about contract time for teachers. And sometimes it's off and sometimes it isn't. And I think we put in some flexibility at the building level to allow principals some latitude on time assignments for staff, if I'm even saying that right.
On-duty assignment, non-student duty assignment before and after school. So there's a total of 40 minutes that buildings have discretion for whether it's before or after. Was a negotiated item last year.
Yeah, it was a negotiated item. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Mr. Ramblings, thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, I have two policies to discuss with you tonight. The first one is policy LED churches. We haven't looked at this one since 1992. And I will tell you in the winter update from KASB, this one was on their list as one that we should delete. So you don't see any red lines or changes on here. They're just saying, make it go away. So, and I asked Jennifer to be here in case you had any legal questions, but you know, we're crossing into that whole separation of church and state here. It just very simply says, don't schedule anything on Wednesday nights. And then the revised version adds Sunday activities and trying not to travel on Sundays and that type of thing. So, but KASB is recommending that it go away.
And this might be completely out of the ballpark on this, but I guess I still see, is there any way to leave this type of policy, but separate it from a religious standpoint? Because I just look at the benefit of encouraging this at midweek. Kids are in school so much and parents are on the run, that midweek break on Wednesday night where things are not scheduled, and the Sunday before you go back. I understand where they're coming from on us leading it, but I just think that we should be I don't know how to word it, a family focused district and encouraging that where we already have kids and staff are already at school some 12 hours a day sometimes, you know? And so I hate to see it go away.
So we do have other handbooks and other avenues without making it board policy. We have, you know, Drew does a handbook for athletics every year. There could be something in there about the practice we wish to do is to leave Sundays and Wednesdays. And it could be more of a district practice, but not a policy. So if there were exceptions, then it would be allowed. But we, you know, what we practice and what we say is written in stone could be two different things. And we could put it in the sports handbook.
I do agree with you on that, Jennifer, just that Wednesday nights, I wouldn't want a student to have to choose between a sporting event or possibly going to their youth group or something like that, or on Sunday missing church to travel to an event or something like that, so. My vote is that we would somehow, whether it's through our policy or through the, you know, the handbooks, we protect Wednesday and Sundays.
I agree too.
And I don't know if that's a
Well,
question. We
can
need
I
to
ask
throw at
that
you.
question specifically? I mean, for example, what would happen if we got rid of the word church? I mean, is there still a real concern about church and state? There's no mention of church.
I think that's KASB's concern, and I think they're trying to alleviate any issues with having a board policy, because board policy is like, this is the law that you're going to follow, whereas if you have a practice in your sports handbook, or you have something that you know, your athletic director assigns, or your extracurricular activities person assigns, or whatever, it's not necessarily law, which then doesn't necessarily violate the separation between church and state. And I think what they're worried about is when you put it in board policy, I think even if you took out church, I think there might be some concern that, well, why'd you pick Wednesday night instead of Thursday night? Or why, you know, what if some other religion doesn't do youth group in church?
Middle of the week and it's the best time.
Yeah.
Right.
I know what you're saying, but the question would be is, what if there's another denomination, or there's some, like, what if the question becomes, well, why are you picking Wednesday and why are you picking Sunday? Why can't it be Thursday and Saturday, or Tuesday and Saturday, or whatever, right? I mean, there could be a million arguments to it. And I think what they would say is, well, because generally, yeah, it's midweek, that's good. But I think other people would say, well, it's people who were opponents to it would say, well, it's because that's typically when there's church activities, which is interfering with that separation. So I think it's totally fine for the district to take other practices to it. I think what they're cautioning to us is having board policy could raise concern. They're not saying that it is going to, it's just, and this board could choose to take whatever stance they wanted. And if you want to delete this in board policy and just see what happens, they're just saying that's not best practice.
And this is a first read. So if you'd like me to talk to our athletic director.
Well, and I think it needs to be a district-wide thing, not just,
Yeah, right.
I know high school athletics is probably the biggest focus on that, but
Could I'm, in speaking with friends, it come up at one point in time where state basketball first round happens on a Wednesday. Sub-state next week's gonna happen on a Wednesday, and we participate in those because they're CASHA sanctioned events, but there's been some school districts that say you shouldn't be allowing kids because it's your board policy not to have activities on Wednesday night. And so in a sense, they're willfully violating board policy already. So what Jennifer and Glenda are alluding to is if you move it from a policy to a handbook practice, and then you could have some language in there saying excluding postseason activities as required by CASHA. It gives you a little bit of not being tied to that policy language.
Or at the discretion of the superintendent or something, however we word that to make.
That's how it's written currently. Is that, so anytime like the high school is on play production at the matinee service on Sunday, you're signing off on that? And if they ask, should be.
I mean, that's
If
the
we're
way it
following
should
board
be.
policy, okay.
I think that's why maybe they're advising taking it out of policy and put it in. I just know from the state, there's been schools that have been told before they may not get to go to state basketball because it's on a Wednesday night and their board policy says they can't participate.
Doesn't say can't, just says make effort.
I'm just giving you a different perspective.
well, and it's on how the policy is worded.
It is a first read and, you know, I think I'll piggyback on Jennifer's comments and Tasha. Bad policy to break your own policy. So
Right.
you just have to try not to break our own policy and put the wording that is beneficial for USD-457 and its participant versus hard in stone. And then Jason does have a point. If it does play, if sub-state is on Wednesday, and you're one of those teams, then, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a big.
It is, but I agree, the wording isn't black and white or in here, black or white in here. It is to make every effort. So,
I think it's interesting discussion on 30-year-old language.
yeah, it is, I understand the reasoning of getting rid of it. I just want there to be some kind of directive somewhere that we encourage that,
Absolutely. I feel like we had a couple ideas.
so.
We'll talk about it some more.
Okay. The next one is classroom
Displays. Again, you'll see no red line. This is a brand new policy. We don't currently have this one, and this is one that KASB recommended. After running it by Jennifer, we did make not a whole lot of language changes, but we added the last line because they kind of left it that if items on a teacher's desk disrupt the learning process or violates board policy, but it didn't say what would happen. So we have just added the line, Jennifer recommended the wording. If the personal items from a teacher's desk or surrounding area do in fact disrupt the learning process, then the principal will address the issue with the teacher. So, this just makes sure that the materials that are up on the walls and displayed around the classroom have to do with the subject matter at hand.
And I just had a couple of questions. When they're not required to remove photos, decorations, and other personal items, what specifically are you considering?
So for example, I have my husband and I's prom picture on my desk, so that would be a personal photo. So you can maybe see,
Right.
or, a trophy of some kind that maybe they were awarded or something like that, or a plaque.
And if there's like specific flags or banners that pertain to certain clubs in the school that would be controversial, where does that fall under? Like if that sponsor, are they allowed to have those in their classroom? Say if FCA, if they have a sponsor, which I don't think they do right now.
Then their banner could be displayed in that teacher.
Yes. And they're considered a religious group in a sense, so can they have a banner that has religious pictures on it, like a cross, or, I don't know what their logo is, actually, but.
As long as it pertained to that, they were the particular,
Sponsor.
yeah, and as long as it wasn't anything disruptive or anything that was causing disruption in their classroom. I mean, I think that's what this alludes to, is that it needs to be on target and not disruptive. And if either of those things arise either from a student, a parent, or another teacher or something of that nature, then it can be addressed.
But as say a teacher personally has a religious belief or something specific to them, that doesn't be on their desk.
It could be, well, go ahead.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, that could happen.
That's what I'm curious, because when I went to school for education classes, they were encouraged as teachers, we don't even wear our cross necklaces.
So those things could happen, right? They could arise. And then the question is is it a disruption? Then you go to the next step. So someone could have it, but then does it meet one of these other things where someone has brought it up that it's disruptive, or it's causing an issue to the learning environment, or it's not on target, or it's not age appropriate, or whatever it may be. And then someone brings that to the principal or the district's attention, and then it's addressed from there if it needs to be addressed.
I'm just trying to find the line of not having to list out every issue that will come up, but also protect our kids or our staff on the other side of it. So that's, I guess, why I have so many questions about it, because I don't know how you deal with it as it comes.
Yeah, principal based. I mean, I think the principals would be in charge of that. I think it's the only way you can do it, because you're never gonna list all of the things that could be disruptive to a class. We could never come up with all of them. And the first time we make a list, then there will be something new that we didn't include on it. So we really do need to give that authority to the building principals to be able to navigate, and when they have issues, bring that to the next level to say, hey, I'm not sure if this is actually disruptive, and they can bring that to whoever their supervisor is at this location. And then if they get to the point where they don't know and they're not sure how the board would interpret that, then they can ask, and you all can decide whether or not you think that rises and it's in board policy or not.
I think maybe a good example is, let's talk about coming up with elections in November, and a teacher only has the Democratic Party posters up in their classroom. Well, even if they teach social studies, they still need to show both sides. So they may say, well, this has something to do with my curriculum. Well, yes, but your curriculum says that you're going to show all sides of it, so you can't just have one party's posters in there.
Jackie, I have a question.
So who, does a student need to complain if they find it disruptive, or a parent, or? Yeah. And then, the principal, go to the principal. Is there, I'm assuming there's leeway, for example, like Mr. Tidwell may have something that's in debate stuff that it could be. There's allowance for him to do that. Yes. Right. Okay.
I'm sure I do.
I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, but that's, I mean,
Of the curriculum
It
or-
maybe somebody does find that offensive, but not, but it's part of what he's teaching. Yes. Okay. So if you come up with additional questions, give us a shout and we'll answer them and utilize Jennifer's expertise as well, and they'll be on the consent agenda. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have board open discussion. What do you want first last time? You start, John.
All right. First off, I mean, just being able to bring in two groups and honor them tonight. I mean, with Andrew being honored the way he was across the state, being part of that, where he gets to participate now in that group, that's pretty awesome. And then for our lesbian results and to have all those students in here and get to celebrate them and celebrate the leadership of that program. That's awesome when we get to do that. And then also just the Victor Ornelas elementary people presenting and doing their school as well as the AP group. I enjoy the passion that our teachers have and the excitement that they showed tonight and what they do and how they're changing their building and how the students are, buying in. I read several comments that, hey, we're putting the workload on the kids and the kids like it. They like the challenge of learning. They like the challenge of wanting to get better at their craft and just being able to read better, and it opens the world to them. So that's exciting for me. And so I just appreciate all those presentations tonight.
I really like when there's, although I do very much love sports, I like when there's things that we get recognized for other than sports, because I do have the most unathletic children in the district probably. But I really like those, getting to recognize some of those things that are other than sports. Although there is state wrestling and basketball and girls wrestling next week. So that's it.
I don't have anything this evening. In the interest of time.
Well, I appreciate all the explanation and repeating for the security, safety of our buildings. I think that I'm glad that that's something we're focusing on right now. So, thank you for all the comments.
I agree with everybody. I get amazed every time I see or hear something that's going on in the district and how good everybody is and how hard they work and the passion they have. And it's motivation.
The performing arts program at the high school is a really fantastic program. I know the staff works incredibly hard with those students, and the students, they put in a lot of work, and they've I think the things they've been able to achieve is just a testament to the hard work that everybody's putting in there. So I really appreciate that. And then the update from maybe on the wildly important goals. I hear so many things about the wildly important goals throughout the district. I feel like there's a ton of energy around that and positive momentum around that. So I just thank you guys for all your efforts and what that's bringing to our students.
Yes, and on that 5-year strategic plan, most of these are related to our 5-year strategic plan. That is the vision, that is the mission, that is what we're moving forward with. So appreciate that, academics, and then the total child. We want to graduate well-adjusted humans. So working hard is one thing, but being able to read and write and working hard, this is America, and you can do anything if you can do that. So that's what we want. So appreciate all your time and energy.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Dana, do you have anything?
I don't. Sorry, I had to check out for a bit, but I did appreciate the parts that I did get to hear. So thanks.
Did tell her I might forget her, so thank you. Okay. The next meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Monday, March 6th at 6 p.m. in the board meeting room. And we will move into our first executive session.
What do we need for negotiations?
20 or 30.
let's say 30, please, Madam President.
Yep, in light of that, Madam President, I'm going to be going to executive session for 30 minutes to discuss negotiations for the 23-24 school year. Pursuant to the exceptions of employer-employee negotiations in Tacoma, beginning at 10 after. And ending at the appropriate time, 30 minutes later. Let's see, I'd like to invite Pauline Dries, Jason Johnson, and Dr. Dominguez to join us in executive session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Aye.
Thank you, Dana.